person to talk about our topic today. Thank you, Dr. Izzy. And
Thank you so
now
much.
our very, very special guest from the industry. I am delighted to introduce everyone, Mr. Syed Faizal Syed Mohsen. Now, he is a visionary leader. Okay, he imagines and then he creates. He is equipped with marketing and business background, complemented with 19 years of experience in three different industries. Very interesting here: aviation, telco, and currently in banking. His passion towards revolutionizing the digital landscape continues to spark, gearing towards innovation and better customer experience. As the managing director of digital banking in Affin Bank, where it is currently undergoing massive digital disruption, he is the main strategic driver who inspires change within the team. Now, Mr. Syed Faizal unlocks creative ideas and bring great minds together. I'm sure he has a very great team behind him, supporting him while continuously inspiring the team to realize the bank's digitalization strategy. Now, Mr. Syed Faizal is also, I believe, one of the best candidates or the right person to talk about today's topic. Okay, so before so we're done with the ice breaking. I'm sure everyone is on the edge of their seats to know what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so let's go ahead with our questions. Um, all right. First, for Dr. Izzy, yeah, um, my first concern and question, perhaps all the audiences would like to know as well. Okay, um, looking at the topic here, yeah, post COVID-19 business sustainability through technology integration sounds very heavy. Yeah, so can you do us the honor to explain what is business sustainability and what is technology integration? Over to you,
All
Dr.
right.
Izzy.
Thank you so much, Adlene. And I would like to say thank you again to the committee members for inviting me to talk today on a topic which I'm very passionate about. I love this kind of topic because it's related to my interests as well as what I've studied during my PhD. The interesting a little bit the background about this before I explain to you about the concept of sustainability and also the innovation, right? And how it should be integrated. Back then when I was doing my PhD, I think in 2017, 2018, there's very lack of research conducted in this kind of area. So when I did my PhD, I was like, I want to explore this area. I want to make it something that is mainstream, that people understand the importance of understanding the marketing concept beyond strategies, the elements of emotions come into play, the elements of understanding your consumers of who they are come into play. I will explain that later when we go into the next question. But let me explain to you the rough ideas of today's topic. So there are two key points or two key ideas that we should bear in mind, or we should that in this discussion, right? So the first one is sustainability. So what is the concept of sustainability? So when we talk about the sustainability in business, there are three main concepts that we need to remember, or three main dimensions of sustainability concept that we need to remember. Economics, social, right? And another one is economics, social, as well as environment. So basically, business are expected in the current years, when you are doing your business, to protect all these three or to contribute back to all these three. Okay. So the other day, when I was teaching strategic communication, so this topic is being raised up. Part of the strategic communication is to understand the concept of CSR. And this concept of CSR is actually highly related to this concept of sustainability, right? So you need to make sure that why you need to make sure that you maintain the economics values so that you can contribute back to your employees. They are workers, they are employees, they need to find money for their families, right? So that's the reason why, or that's how you should look into it. And then why you should save the environment, because we are living in the current environment, and today if you see there's a lot of disasters happening around, and because we did not protect the environment, so we need to protect our environment. So you need to contribute back as an organization to this, right? And also social responsibility, and also how to build up the nations, how to build up the society as a whole. So when we try to relate this, if you look at the concept entirely, the main how to say, the main thing that tied all of these three concepts together is the concept of humanity, which is highly related to our topic, why we do this discussion, right? Humanity, how to make academics things more human, and thus make it more applicable, and thus make it more relevant, right? So, and we're talking about innovation post-COVID, especially. So this is highly related. We need to see the changes in the trends in order for us to understand, like, how does this fit into the concept of sustainability, and how does this strengthen when you want strengthen your objective when you are doing marketing or marketing communication strategies. So that's what we're going to discuss today. So I hope that give you a basic idea. If you want to learn more, then you need to enroll my class. Okay.
Def- definitely.
Can I sign up as well?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes, you can.
Sumpah yours. Mr. Syed, you can get your employees to join MMU.
Yeah. We should do a deal.
Okay,
Sounds like a
Mr.
plan.
Syed. Dr. Izzy shared a very interesting point of view from the academic perspective. Would you like to add something, from the industrial perspective? Is there anything else that, perhaps that you would like to add?
I think uh, I think Dr. Izzy is right on point. I think it's not only Affin Bank, but the whole industry is also looking from the sustainability point of view. In fact, the buzzwords that we are looking at, like I said, the whole industry is looking at ESG,
Mm,
and the ESG portion is it has a lot of its benefits from social point of view, from environment point of view. I think the concept of ESG is not new. It has been there for quite some time, but I think it's also been heightened up with all these global warming issues and whatnot. And I think it's interesting to see in terms of ESG, and in this context where the digitalization comes into the picture of how it contributes to the ESG. I think digitalization plays a vital role not only to enhance ESG, but also to sustain the effort of ESG. I'm talking not only for the banks, but the rest of the organization and various industries as well. Digitalization at least help to save a lot more power required, a lot more fumes that being go out to the into the air. I mean, that's as simple as it can be. If I were to delve further, I think it is a core part of a banking industry in the next couple of years to come, and we are, as an industry, we are coming together to make sure that this happens as well. Not only from the individual organization, but a collective effort from the industries as well.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sai. Thank you. All right. Now we've, cleared out the air on the topic. What is sustainability, technology integration, the importance of digitalization to the environment, etc. So we now would like to delve deeper into, looking at the post-pandemic situation right now. So, Dr. Izzy, this question goes out to you.
mm,
What do you think of the big changes when it comes to consumption post pandemic? Because honestly, my consumption has totally changed,
mm,
from traditionally, for example, something as simple as going to the grocery. I
mm,
used to, like, go out and go to the groceries and buy something, da, 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 da. But I noticed that there is a change for me right now. Even I want to buy stationery, I would go to Shopee instead. Instead of going to the bookstore and picking out what I want to buy. So that is, just a very simple example. But perhaps if you could, explain it in terms of a bigger picture, what do you predict? What do you think are the big changes when it comes to consuming, whether it's using digital banking, etc.
Is it for me or is it for
Oh,
Doctor?
Dr. Izzy, Dr. Izzy,
Okay.
Dr. Izzy. I think, yeah, I think he froze. But perhaps we can have Mr. Syed
Okay.
Faizal to help out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me give my point of view and what has happened. I think pre-pandemic, if I delve into further into digital banking, pre-pandemic, people already, get used to how digitalization works. But what happened is that during the pandemic, the last 2 years, we see there's a fast track in terms of adoption of all these things, right? I think the biggest adoption is, Adlene, you rightly pointed, the e-commerce area, where you can get everything from Shopee, from Lazada, you can have everything, right? Almost everything, right? Now, it is not so much of a change for the banking industry as well. During pandemic, I think we support a lot of payment and transfers. I think that is something that we can, like I said, is a huge adoption and also utilization, not only for Affin Bank, but for the whole industry. Affin Bank by itself recorded about at least 50% increment in terms of the usage of transfer, e-commerce, and all this digital payment portion. What happened is that I noticed is that before the pandemic, people are a bit more skeptical in terms of using this kind of technology. But because of pandemic, for better reason, perhaps because there's no other way of doing it, so they gotta adopt. So we call it as a forced adoption, But the forced adoption creates a habit. So as we can see now, as we are in the endemic phase, the demand for the digital banking or even for the e-commerce, it has not gone down. And I am predicting this is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So where does it leave with the traditional banking or traditional businesses? So we are quite clear in terms of the banking portion, is that those in terms of hygiene, the transfers and the e-commerce and remittances are not, it should be consumed from the digital payment platform. The branches will take into account of all those advisory portion. So for example, I need to buy an insurance, I need some advice, I need some wealth management, investment and whatnot. So you can see there's a distinct portion in terms of how the banking actually evolved, not only because of the pandemic, but because of the customer demand, because banking provides services, right? So we are sensitive in terms of what services we can offer at what channel and at what time. That's very important. So in the next coming years, it will be like that. There will be a mesh between the traditional and also the digital portion. Of course, the digital portion will be growing bigger and bigger and bigger, not only for a hygiene portion of clearing out the payments and remittances, but you can see a lot more things, interesting things like we have launched EKYC, for example. EKYC is where now you don't need to go to the branch to open an account. You can just open an account in 5 minutes through your phones and you can do whatever that you need to do. But having said that, I think banking as a whole industry, we are supporting in terms of this digital payment portion, because I think this is also a direction from the government and also Bank Negara to increase and heighten up a bit more in terms of adoption, utilization of digital payment. Of course, on the other side of the coin, people will also start to talk about security of the digital payment itself, of which I think that will be a separate topic on its own. But in terms of, Adlene, in terms of the trend, it will not slow down, definitely. It will get bigger and bigger. In fact, the banks are also trying to strategize in terms of to ensure all the payments and whether it's by the QR, e-wallet, whatever conduit that you guys are doing or preferred, to make sure the smooth customer experience when executing this transaction. This is very important because at the end of the day, we don't want a customer that is stuck and can't get all the things that he or she wanted either from online or even from brick and mortar.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Syed. Dr. Izzy, welcome back. Mr. Syed, that was those points were very interesting. Dr. Izzy, um, would you like to add on anything? Another concern when it comes to e-commerce or digital banking or the digitalization is perhaps also those who are not literate, those who are illiterate, what can we do, or how can we help those target group, because this is through experiences, like like my parents. Okay, they are from a different generation, so when it comes to online banking, to to transfer money or to help them pay the bills, usually I do it, or any of my siblings, so perhaps you could also elaborate this point, post pandemic, as Mr. Said elaborated just now, explained that we are forced to adopt this, or even something as simple as scanning my sejahtera, those in this we call them warga emas lah, okay, these different generation, they might they might struggle with this technology. So how do we go about this? What do you think, Dr. Izzy? Dr. Izzy, you are muted.
Sorry. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you so much, Miss Adlene. This is about one thing about technology. We like to be Harry Potter. Suddenly we gone and then we poof come back. Okay, sorry about that. So right. So let me address the question that I didn't get to answer the first time, which is you were asking about the consumption trend. Post COVID, right? Post COVID situation. Okay, so when we talk about the consumption trends, particularly when it comes to post-COVID, as we mentioned it, based on the research, it says that the consumers are going into this what we call as retaliation spending, meaning that they are re-alive from the um, not spending so much during the COVID time, right? So because during the COVID time, everybody was scared, the economy was down, everybody don't really want to spend, and we are still getting used to what is happening, and then what is how are we going to do the transaction, how are we going to make our purchases. So like what Mr. Syed said, we were forced to go into e-commerce consumption, right? So and then once that took part where people already learn, okay, e-commerce is actually making my life way more easier. I don't have to go out. Everything is at my doorstep, right? So they started to get used to it, but they still have that limit where I cannot spend too much because this is still during COVID. We never know what's going to happen in the future. In fact, if you know, based on the research, it says that during that COVID time, like a lot of spender well, if you know what we Maslow hierarchy, right? So we spend sometimes based on a Maslow hierarchy. We have our needs. We fulfill our needs first, and then only our necessity first. And then we go up the ladder, and then we would spend more. So everyone will bring their spending one level down or two level down from what they used to spend. For example, if let's say I'm a rich person, I normally if I want to buy car, I buy BMW. But if let's say in need, I need to buy car during that pandemic time, I might not consider BMW. I might consider something that is local. I will need to save myself because safeguard myself because I don't know whether the economy is going up soon or not. I don't know whether I'm going to stay in my work and I'm going to still have my work. And if I'm doing business, if my business is still going to be in business, because like it's everyone is affected. It's like a reset button. Everything is resetting. And then now we are almost like celebrating. It's like, okay, we can go out now. The pandemic is almost over in most of the place. You can start to travel overseas. So why not spend on it? Like you have saved for all this while. For it's now your time to spend. So that is the first trend that was mentioned by a lot of websites and a lot of articles saying that we are going into retaliation consumptions. We are trying to retreat ourselves now. And then, of course, we cannot deny that the e-commerce have grown so much in terms of the digitalizations of marketing concept, how people market their products, right? So last time, social media, for example, Facebook, Instagram, is mainly for like me contacting you. Hi, how are you? Looking at your picture on a daily basis. But now you can see every day, even sometimes at 2 a.m. when I cannot sleep, I'll go on TikTok and I watch people, hey, mili lah, beli ni, beli tu, like people are talking on TikTok and selling their things at 2 a.m., at 3 a.m., like, so that's how progressive the current market is, right? So if you're looking at a business perspective, we need to take this challenge. There is no longer, how to say, a space for you not to learn e-commerce, not to take part, or not to be participative in e-commerce. You have to. It is a need for a business, right, to have an e-commerce platform. Because apart from that, is when we talk, the good thing about an e-commerce platform is not just a place where you are selling your product, but it also have to create engagement. Okay, so why is engagement is important? Let me explain to you. Because we talk about the concept of sustainability, we talk about the concept of humanity, right? So we as a business, we know that we need to communicate to our clients, to our customers. So in order for us to communicate, previously it might be a very generic concept, like I'm selling you this product, this is the goodness, the features and the benefit of my product, you will get this benefit out of my products and such. But now that is not enough. It's not enough. People want to know not only what your product can provide to me, but how are you going to create that relationship with me? How are you going to maintain that relationship with me? You know why? Because part of it is because consumers are now brilliant. We are not talking about the X generation. We are not talking about the Y generations that is still going to the library and to check for information. We are talking about a very mature generation right now, and a mature consumers, I would say. They know where to find the product easily. They know where to find the information about the product easily. And definitely, they know how to leave comment on your page, whether it's positive or negative, right? And provide their, how to say, their recommendations. They know how to do this from A to Z. If you're opening a business, your business is highly depending on them, right? So this trend is there. So we need to take this challenge. We need to understand this trend, that we need to communicate, we need to engage with our consumers. Okay. And your second question just now, you were talking about how can we educate the more matured generations on how to use e-commerce. Okay. For me, when it comes to educating people, it's always, there need to be a person who's teaching a lesson. Okay. Even if we are talking about communication, the simplest for us to relate to when it comes to theories is, for example, cultivation theories. Cultivation theory says that the more that you watch some content, right, on medias, the more that you will learn from it. So learning from this, we can use media to basically communicate this with them. But obviously, because like I said, the generations right now is full with people who already know how to use e-commerce. But I think it is our responsibility, the young generation, to teach them, as well as to show, or at least to show them a video on how to do it. I mean, like, you cannot change their, unfortunately, we cannot change the mindset, because they're already getting used to certain type of consumptions, but we can always educate them, right? And with the hopes, like, the more we educate, the more that we get. The cultivation theory says, the more that you watch, the more that you will try to do, the more that you will know these practices very well, and the more you get used to it, and it will make it your norms. So let's try to do that. We are responsible to educate them, if you ask me, right? Be patient, Okay, it's not going to be easy lah, because of course, I mean, when once we're growing older as well, it's going to be the same thing. When our kids have a new type of technologies to in certain in certain apa tu cakap life activities kan, yang macam kita not used to, kita bakal rasa macam susahnya, malas ni nak fikir, tapi hopefully diorang akan teach kita, they will teach us kan. So I think that's the best lah that I can share with you so far, right? But my whole point is, when it comes to business, understand very well the market. What is the latest trend? How are you going to engage with the consumers? And in fact, right now, if we are talking about the trends, it's moving on to the next step, but it is still developing, which we call as personalization. We are no longer talking about you creating relationship. The last time we used to talk about customer relationship management, meaning that you are building the engagement, you are building that connection with your customers. But if you are doing that as a business, not to say that you need to leave that, you need to move forward to another step, which is personalization. Okay, in the Western, it is still developing, but in the Western, they are talking now about like how to define their consumers and differentiate their consumers. Last time when we talk about concept of loyalty, we only have like brand loyalty or people being loyal to a brand. Okay, but nowadays, because the market has been segmented in so many small apa tu minor punya apa tu group of people yang you boleh target. So you nak focus more on to maintain the loyal customers. So to maintain the loyal customers, sekarang they are looking into personalization. They're differentiating loyal customers A perhaps purchases 3 to 4 times of your product. Customers B purchase more than 4 times. Customers loyal C purchasing more than 20 times. So this, how to appreciate this differently. That's what they're discussing now. So maybe that's the next trend in the future. The more you spend on a company, the more that you get advantage out of them. So maybe that's going to be in the future, but it's too early to say. Okay, right.
All right, thank you, Dr. Izzy. I was most interested with your point about educating.
Mm.
In fact, I don't have to wait that long for
Yeah,
me to go into
okay.
to go into my 50s, because I have two daughters, and right now they are in terms of their consumption, they play a lot of online games which I don't understand at all, and then they try to rope me in to play the game. Ya Allah,
Mm.
macam mana nak main game ni, tak pandai lah, you all just main. I don't have to wait that
Mm.
long,
Betul?
to wait for me to go into my 50s to not understand new technology. Even now, there is an
Mm. Mm.
overwhelming source of information and all these new technology coming in. Now, I have another question for Mr. Syed, but before that, we have a comment from one of our viewers. Allow me to read them. This is from
Okay.
Eddie Tang. Okay, he says, I wish to hear from a national strategy in industry integration point of view, how to integrate digitalization industry into our nation local industry to integrate them to the global ecosystem and be part of the global suppliers, software and hardware, competing with MNCs on a global platform. I
Mm.
see this will benefit our Tanah Airku Sayang as a nation building and add more value to the not only our nation and also to our rakyat. Let's all work together to make a happy and prosperous Malaysia. This is our main focused outcome we all wish to see. So actually he has this one question earlier. He wants to hear from a national strategy in industry integration point of view, how to integrate digitalization industry into a nation local industry to integrate them to the global ecosystem and be part of the global suppliers, competing with MNCs on a global platform. I think this is best to be answered by Mr. Syed.
Okay. First and foremost, I think I admire your semangat kebangsaan. I really like Malaysia Tanah Airku. Okay, so there are a couple of parts in this question which I will try to answer. First and foremost, Malaysia's digitalization. So Malaysia is at the crossroad now to be a full digital economy. or we still want to go in terms of manufacturing and whatnot, right? So of course there's a industry 4.0 and all these kind of things, but in reality, I think it is very, very difficult to have a unified global supply chain of digitization of the whole global supply chain. However, I think we are, as an industry person, we are working together with a lot of government agencies, semi-government agencies, the likes of MDEC, because they have a very good digitalization program. This digitalization program is not only for banking, it's for everyone. And I always believe digital banking is to enable all this
Mm.
digitalization. I mean, there are a lot of scopes in terms of digitalization. Now, when we look at in terms of how banking plays a role in terms of digitalization, there's a lot of people who actually think that I can transfer money instantly. Actually, it is not, right? Banking plays a pivotal role in terms of the digitalization because you create a platform for all those customers to basically adopt, like as I mentioned just now. That's one area. The second area is, of course, we will also go into partnership with a lot of fintechs, for example, not only for our bottom line, but it's also for the customer. Now, it's interesting to see, like Dr. Izzy was saying, in terms of personalization. I think another trend that we are looking at, and I'm looking at it at a very hawkish eye, is the hyper personalization, which is coming our way. Now, hyper personalization is because of the big data availability, so you can do a lot more hyper personalization, right? But that is still in debates and whatnot. But that will change the way how we interact with each other, the way how you approach organization, or even the way how you do your day-to-day banking. Now, coming back to this, so it's not only Affin Bank, but the rest of the industry is also gearing up together with MDEC and together with DNB, together with everyone here, to make sure that we are, as a nation, we are a full digital economy, right? Of course, I think our government has also some aspiration to make sure by 2025 the adoption of digital phones and smartphones is going to be 100%, or all this kind of thing. So we are working together with them, but at the global basis, there's a lot of other challenges as well.
True.
Reality is that in terms of the global part, you have the regulatory portion. Each
True.
nation wants to protect their own economy, whether it's full digital or not full digital. That's one. The
True.
other part is that you also have a lot of barrier in terms of varying technologies, right? That is not so difficult if we can come into a portion of this. But what is more important is that we have to look at the economics of it. Does it make sense for us to be a global portion, or do we want to basically focus on the areas that we are good at,
True.
right? Because we can't be good at everything. So
True.
if we have to be good at something, right? So every single nation in this world, I think that's what 180, 172, is trying to find their niche in terms of what do we do next as a nation, right? I give you an example. Singapore doesn't have any natural resources, right?
Yep.
Our good neighbor, they don't have any natural resources. Dia tak ada getah, tak ada kelapa sawit, semua tak ada, right?
Human capital, economic.
Human
Yeah.
capital, correct. So they bank on human capital 30 years ago, and they say human capital is number one.
Mm.
However, they find a niche market, I think about 10 years ago, with Monetary Authority of Singapore, to make sure that Singapore is a digital and financial hub. So that makes a lot of difference. So when you have those kind of agenda, the likes of Google, the likes of AWS will come to Singapore and invest in the country itself. So that itself, if you think that AWS is a global supplier, yes, they are a global supplier, but you'll be surprised how much localization or globalization that they need to do to make sure that the economics of their business is relevant in that country, right? So
True.
if you're talking from Malaysia's standpoint of view, we are not bad, right? We are not bad. Actually, we are quite good. Of course, despite those people say kita punya broadband slow lah, all these kind of things. But in terms of bullet training into the digital portion, we are there, right? We are there. So what we need to do is invest a bit more on human capital, a bit more injection in terms of the grants to bring up all those startups and fintechs and whatnot, and be the face of the digital Malaysia. All right. So I think that I hope I can answer. I've answered part and parcel of it, because that question is huge,
Betul.
right? Right.
Okay. I would like to add, if you don't mind, Miss Adlene, a little bit
Yes,
on.
yes, go ahead. I was just about to ask you to add on. Go ahead.
Right. Okay. The question is very interesting because we are talking about globalization. However, if we are looking at a lot of the discussion now, right now, right? People are right now asking whether globalization is still a relevant method, or should we go more into localizations, right? So more and more international company actually opted out for localizations, whereas if we as a Malaysian company looking at a globalization still, it might not it might not we might not be in trend lah. Maybe we are moving towards even a wrong direction. So that's the thing that we want to avoid. First and foremost. Okay, right. So let's understand this. Because the question is very big. So when we talk about globalizations and when we talk about digitizations, actually, like what Mr. Syed said, we are not bad. And that constantly have all of this training provided to business owners, provided to the SMEs to reach to them to learn about digitization. And as we know, I mean, starting from COVID, the training, they don't have to have a formal meetup or a physical meetup to teach people about digitizations. They even have like an online classes. But the question to that is how many of our SMEs are willing to basically enroll, participate. Okay. So, and also the second question is whether the awareness about this kind of training enough ke tidak. Okay. So that's always the question that's been lingering around. But if we want to talk about governments, I'm not backing up governments, but what I'm trying to say is they already provided you with all the trainings. So if we want to move, we as a company or an organization, or if let's say you are opening a business, you are the one who need to now take these advantages, learn about digitizations. That is my perspective, right? So um, I think the function of, I mean, when we talk about creating awareness, I think they have done their best putting on the website, and then sometimes I believe there's some advertisement been going on about their training. So if that is not enough, we, if we are talking about putting Malaysia in the map of the world, we need to remind each other. Like if you are a company, you have a friend also that is opening up a business, tell them, initiate that conversation saying like, hey, this is this training, would you like to go with us, but how many of us want to do that? That's one thing about our country, I think, that we can improve on, that we need to stop looking at, you would need to stop asking your children, for example, siapa dapat nombor satu in class, who get number one in class. You should ask, how many of you can work together to get an ace, work together to achieve the goal, kan? And because the world have moving to that, to that way, to that level. Consumers, you don't need to be in the global map to reach all the consumers. You can be in Malaysia, you can still reach to the global level through all of this communication platform. But what you need is for you to initiate that interest, like what we started off before we start this program. I talked to Mr. Syed how to initiate the interest in students, how to initiate the interest in businessmen to take this opportunity and move forward, right? And move forward together, not alone. There is no longer concept like I'm going to win the biggest share in the market, because if you still say that, For me, you're still not understanding the market. You know why? Because right now the market, not to say it's shrinking, but it is dispersed into many categories. Kan? Macam contoh, for example, an example, you are selling clothing. Consumers are becoming more brilliant right now. Last time when we want to choose clothing, we choose whatever that is available on the shelf. Now there's no longer. The consumers, when they want to choose the clothing, they would think about the design. Will that fit me well? Does that define me? Does the colors that they use actually the colors that I like? So all of this filtration in their head or in the during that apa tu decision making process of when they are making that purchases will basically segment down the market to a small segment. So that's why I check out from the first start. It's not so much about you reading the market, but it's like how you maintaining what you have and also try to reach or try to communicate using the concept of humanity and sustainability concept to your consumers. Inshallah, your consumers will understand like you are actually having a good values. Your organization is supporting a good values, and they will support you too. Okay, and also need to understand that the consumers, every consumers right now, they have values in them that you would need to understand. What is their values? How are you going to understand that values, and how are you going to communicate these similarities of values between you and your consumer? That's what will attract them to buy your product. If
Correct.
they want to buy the
Po-
product, they will
That's
ask. They will ask, if I buy from you, how much that you will contribute back to my society?
Mm-hmm.
Kan?
True.
Sebab tu, it's important for you to do CSR as an organization.
Mm-hmm.
It's important for you to do to contribute back to that society, because this is the trend right now when it comes to purchasing. This
Mm-hmm.
is the need of the consumers. The need of the consumers is no longer product, it's no longer services. It's the values that you are going to provide, the values and also your contribution back to the society.
True.
Okay,
Correct.
so
I
that's what we
agree.
need to change. Okay,
All
right.
right. All right. Thank you, Dr. Easy and
Yeah.
Mr. Syed.
Mm,
I would like to go one step back.
mm,
Dr. Easy mentioned about progressiveness.
mm.
You said that, people are online at wee hours in the morning, going live on TikTok or on
Yes.
Facebook, correct? Those are values. Those are values
Mm,
that,
mm.
the current, not only, I wouldn't say only the later generation, but even from my generation, yeah, sometimes I am guilty of that. I watch TikTok live as well in the wee hours of morning.
Don't worry, we
Uh,
all
you
do
are
that,
not alone. You are not
sometimes.
okay, I believe we all do that. These 80s, 90s babies do that as well.
Okay.
Okay, so when there is a platform that is progressive, platforms that provide all these tools for not only, as you said, not only to sell
Mm.
their products and brands, but also to
Communicate.
sell value. Yes, to
Mm.
communicate,
The
especially.
values.
It, it, it is now borderless. There's no
True.
boundaries to it. But the downside that comes together with it, the cons that comes down, together with all these progressiveness, um, are people who are waiting and lurking in the dark, waiting to scam people.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ah.
So this is a question for Mr. Syed first. Perhaps Dr.
okay.
Easy, you can add on later. So, how does the
Uh, uh,
banking industry, convince and assure consumers to
Data
use,
protection.
yeah, to use the digital banking despite all the security issues? In fact, I think 2 weeks ago, I'm not that active on social media, but I actively look for information on social media. That's where I look for my information first. I don't read newspapers anymore. It's usually social media. I get my breaking news from social media. Anyway, there is a viral news going around from one of Affin consumers or customers, saying that Affin so far has provided great security so so far we have not lost any money, when we use Affin. So it shows that, that is, I believe, a signal saying that Affin is doing good. I'm not, saying that other, the
Institution.
others are doing that bad, but
Mm.
you are being highlighted, Affin is being highlighted in social media. So, perhaps you could elaborate, how does the banking industry, specifically Affin, convince and assure consumers to keep on using the services and products, when they are, everyone is concerned with scamming nowadays. So, Mr. Syed.
Somehow or other, I knew this question will come. Because it is trending. I mean, I can expect this kind of questions now. Um, Let me explain in terms of a bit in terms of the security portion in terms of banking, right? I'm not going to go into technical in terms of looking at the server and whatnot. So let's look at what is there for the consumers. For Affin in particular, I think most of the banks, my colleagues as well, there are a couple of things that we are doing, maybe right, maybe wrong. It depends, depending on how you perceive it. Banking is very, very sensitive, as you know that. First and foremost, we do have a fraud management system, right? Affin employs fraud management system. So what does this fraud management system does? So fraud management system understands the behavior of the customer, in terms of the profile, in terms of where you log in as well. This is very important. Now, why do we do this? Because you need to understand the customer's behavior. You need to understand where customers log in and what does customer do when they want to do their mobile banking or even internet banking transactions. Now, more often than not, when we have a plethora of data in terms of how this customer behave, any abnormalities, we will try to interfere as much as possible for the customer security. So most of the time this happens, and that is where customer is being asked in terms of, sometimes you would know some banks, they have a challenge question, suddenly you nak transfer 5,000, but there's a challenge question, for example, right? I mean, just that's a simple example. There's also sometimes that somebody calls you and say that, are you the one who actually does this transaction, especially from the credit card portion. So that is where the fraud management system comes into the picture, right? It's a very complicated algorithm, right? If I want to explain to you, I think I might not be the main even expert to tell you what's the algorithm there, right? That fraud management system helps us a lot, right? The second part is the awareness. Now, why I said the awareness? Awareness is very important because when you look back at the statistics, right, most of those customers, public, that lost money through these scams and whatnot
Mm.
is because of self-inflicted,
True.
right? I will go as high as perhaps 80 to 85% are self-inflicted or they've been tricked, right? Now, when this is why awareness is important, because it's like this. If you actually have a key to the house and you have all your precious Fabergé egg apa dalam rumah tu, all these things, right? So you are so keen to make sure that you are secured in the house, right? Everything semua dalam tu. But what happened is that somebody come and tell you that, um, if I do this and da, can you actually give me the key to the house, right? I want the key to your house, right? Now, then you fikir balik, oh, because I'm a super conscious guy, I'm going to do also an alarm kat situ. So I know the passcode, right? Orang curi ke tak boleh, pencuri try pun tak boleh, the best, right? So that is analogy in terms of the house and the customer's account. It's well protected, right? Inshallah, is well protected. That's not much of a need. The issue is when you met someone and you trust that fella, or you've been tricked and whatnot, you kasih dia kunci. Bila kasih kunci, dapat buka. And then that, say that guy is a scammer or apa tu, pencuri lah, ya. So dia dah buka pintu, kata ada alarm code lah. What is the alarm code? You kasih lagi alarm code, right?
You yang buka
And
jalan untuk
ah,
dicuri.
basically give a red carpet to the scammer, say that ambil lah apa nak ambil. And then you say that there's something wrong with the alarm, there's something wrong with the kunci. Right? That is actually what is happening in the marketplace with all these scams, right? I'm not saying that the banking system as a whole industry is perfect, no. But most of those cases, which has a lot of permutation in terms of losing money apa semua, is that simple analogy. Because most of the banks have a very complicated fraud management system. We have our fraud team to help you. We also have our IT punya security, cyber security. Semua ni dah ada. Macam saya cakap, you build the house macam dah macam fort, right? But you end up you give the kunci, you give lagi ada alarm punya passcode. Oh, shock lah kan.
Baik bagi rumah terus cakap dengan dia.
Okay. So I want to comment something on the apa tu, the one that you said just now, Adlene, the one viral. Yes, Affin as a small medium-sized bank, we try our best in terms of to protect the customers' interest. Customers' interest here means customers' money lah, right? We do have the fraud team that is working profusely from the from looking, from detecting, monitoring, calling, and try to prevent all these things, right? We work together with the likes of BNM. We work together even with PDRM in terms of the awareness. We work together in terms of the PDRM to get maybe ada yang suspected account, for example, kan, the fraudsters apa semua. We get that and we actually close those accounts to make sure that our customers are not open to that kind of risk. But still, if you go back to the analogy of the house, I even say to all the audience here, do not give the key, do not give the passcode. You will lose everything.
True.
Right? Okay. But we are doing our best, right? Not only from Affin point of view, but the whole industry collectively, because we understand that as much awareness as we can and as much as possible in terms of the security of the system itself, right? Now, lastly, we also need to balance between the security and the user experience. Kalau katakan you buat mobile banking, every single transaction nak bayar RM2 ke, pun nak kena minta itu, nak kena minta tu, then it also have a negative impact on digitalization. Right?
Correct.
So we need to balance that. It's an art and science in terms of the fraud management. But again, awareness is important. The banks are trying to do as much as possible. Affin is trying to put a top-notch security in all these things, because we can't tell the scammers don't do it. They will still right? And they will evolve. Sometimes their modus operandi is much better than anyone that we have.
They are an institution themselves.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if somebody actually goes out there and value that market, I think it could be as big as the banking industry. It could be.
True.
Right? So that's the part on the security. So I think we are trying to do our best, but I think it takes two to tango. The consumer as well, right? The public as well. They need to know. Kalau macam suspicious je, kenapa they are asking for my IC number, my login details, kan? Just put down the phone dengan layan. Again, I say, jangan kasih kunci, jangan kasih alarm passcode. You will get habis. Okay?
Okay, all right.
I actually agree with Mr. Syed's punya point. Sometimes when I listen to all these fraud cases, dia ada this trend in TikTok. Dia kata apa? Bila you dengar tu, dia macam rasa macam otak you jatuh, you letak macam tak masuk juga. Macam tu kan. Macam otak jatuh. Tak function juga. Okay, dia macam ni. Sebab we cannot blame in our current environment right now. We are actually in a very secured environment and ecosystem. We have bank taking all the best effort to secure. We have PDRM always there to assist us if let's say we have any to help with all these scammers and whatever, not to catch these scammers. Everyone is playing their roles So the only one that is not playing the roles is the individual themselves, because they are the one who don't want to take that action. If let's say they get called by a bank, for example, and then throughout that phone calls, is either they get freaked out, or it's either like they lack of information and straight away believe whatever that person is saying. Is If let's say you're facing in those kind of situations, do not straight away believe. You should just put your phone first and you call the bank yourself to know what's the situation, like,
Right.
or you,
That's right.
yeah, you call the parties that contacted you. Do not let them call you, because you have to understand one concept lah. Bank, all of this organization and institution, if you don't have hutang with them, they also don't have time to call you back. Okay. They have so many other works to do, right?
So if the banks don't call you, you are good.
You are good. Bila the bank call you, you should be scared. You kena tengok dekat you punya online banking, mungkin dah 4,000 you punya hutang. You should be scared with the interest and all that. Okay. So that's what my mom always say. My mom is working in central bank, so she always told me like, if there is no wrong that you are doing with the bank, they will not call you. For what they want to call you, if they want to do promotions or marketing, is either they send it maybe to your email, ataupun they see you face to face in physical setting. Itu saja. Dia tak ada, ataupun teleconference, but then they would say like they are from Maybank and everything. So, but even if that they have these telecalls, I mean, for me lah, as someone who is knowledgeable, someone who is used to the modern way of transaction, janganlah straight away believe, straight away sign up, kan? So of course, if you want to sign up, you put down the you put down the phone first, think about it first, and then only you get back to them. That's always the best method. Do not straight away make decision in a rush. When it comes, if let's say you think it is suspicious transaction, as simple as that, right? Clarify, go back to the source, question, understand, baru you buat the decision. Jangan buat decision right there and then. Itu sajalah. I rasa that's the best method. That's the only way for us to communicate and educate the people. Because even if let's say lah, katalah bank call you for hutang kan, they should give you time to think and to find money to repay. They shouldn't force you to right there and then. And if you think you see all of this scamming or punya program and everything, they want you to do the transaction right there and then. Because for them, the concept is one opportunity, seal the deal. Because when they call it 2 times or 3 times, you might not believe them already. So the first time is the only way for them to persuade you. But you don't easily get persuaded. You need to be mindful of what is the transaction all about, how are you going to go about it, what I need to do in order for me to make sure that it is safe. Okay, right. That's all that I can share.
All right. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Syed and Dr. Izzy. We have
Comments.
another comment
Mm.
from our viewer from Eddie Tang again. Okay. He says, thank you for the explanation. Agreed that digitization is at its initial priority stage as an enabler platform for other businesses to thrive. About globalization, the trend is that global supply chain is being restructured and rebalanced as we speak. And Tanah Air Kusayang mustn't miss this huge opportunity. Just like our E&E industry, if you're not integrated to be part of the ecosystem, you cannot sustain your growth just by gaining more and more FDIs each year. FDIs are one of the engine of growth for the nation, and we should continue to have it, but go for safe and healthy industries. The nation's growth will be more sustainable if our existence is part of the global ecosystem as we demo full local excellence to compete with global MNCs where some companies are already showing. And he adds more, I don't have political narratives here. FDI is one of the nation's growth engine to sustain the growth as common rakyat we wish to see or have effective politicians that roll out strategized approaches, collaborating government, industry, universities, research centers, and academia to sustain the growth. More jobs formulations, yes. More lean and productive government public servants that effectively serve the rakyat. Let us all work together again to build a happy and prosperous Tanah Air Kusayang. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Syed Faizal and Dr. Izzy?
I
Okay.
just
Okay. Mr.
maybe
Faizal, go first.
just maybe a quick one. I think this is a bit more abstract. the sense that we all want Malaysia to be the best.
Yes, betul,
Um, but the thing is that a lot of us don't want to work for it,
betul.
which is not right. Right? We got to work together, regardless of whichever industry, whether you are an academician, I'm a banker, I'm from a construction company, I'm from this, I'm from that. We got to put our head together and figure out what do we need to do to strive forward. Because if our ancestors before can do it, and here we are at the doldrums in the mid-sized economy and whatnot, I think we should be able to do it again, right? I do agree with Eddie in terms of the FDIs.
Hmm.
But I think the healthy economics, not only from the banking side, as a nation, is a lot of components. There's a lot of component of GD coefficiency, FDI, GDPs, and whatnot. But again, if you look at only from one perspective of the FDIs are good to stimulate the economy. But then we, as Malaysians, we need to think, how do we capitalize this FDI to sustain our own economy should the FDI will stop one day? That is very important, right? The continuity, and as we mentioned, the first point, the sustainability of the business,
Hmm.
the sustainability of the effort that we are doing, it must also benefit the next generation, right? And I quote again, there are few countries that has really done this very, very good. Singapore is one good example. Germany is one good example. I mean, some of you guys are very bright academicians or even students. Go look at how Germany built their country, right? And how they plan in the future, right?
Hmm.
And how Singapore actually look at how they look at human capital. And like I said before, 10 years ago, how do we make as a digital and financial hub? That's very interesting. But I actually salute Eddie in terms of your patrioticness in terms of this. I think we are all in this together, and I think we need to work together more than ever, right? Regardless of any politics, any industry, any thoughts, any religions. That's very important.
Correct. Okay, just a little bit more for me to add. I mean, I totally agree what Mr. Syed said, and I also understand where Mr. Eddie coming from. Okay, so this is also one thing that I always like to discuss as well. But I'm going to share it with you in my opinion, my perception, or my views. In order for us to move forward, in order for us to, like we said, make our country the greatest nation, there need to be there need to be an essence of motivation instilled in each and every one of us to work together, moving together in making this country as a good nation. However, looking at, I'm not going to mention any cases or make this political discussion. But what I'm trying to say is looking at the political environment at the moment, looking at the cases that's been going on around us, I do believe this is one of the contribution that might slow down our, I said, from our wake up calls, post pandemic. Now, it's like this. My point of view is during pandemic, people are taking time to get used to the pandemic situation, to get used to what we call as apa tu, uh, new the new way of working and the new lifestyles and whatever not, right? So we are slowing down, and it is understandable. Like every country basically and every state also slowing down during that moment. But when the economy when we know that we can the transaction or global transaction can take in place, a lot of company are sprinting. I mean, and going for it. Malaysia is still sleeping. Because we are having this dream about, we are too busy with our stories of what happened in our political environment, like corruption and whatever not, right? I don't want to mention any case, but it's like we have too focused on all of and I do believe, this is my personal opinion, I do believe there's lack of uh there's a slowdown in terms of the direction where the country is heading. That's what caused this slowing down in we getting back in the economics as well, I would say. We used to have a very clear direction. We used to have like 2020 vision. We used to have leaders there to guide us. But now we don't, not to say that we don't have leaders. We have leaders, but then might not be as prominent, but not to blame him. It's simply because like the situation itself,
Yes.
like the issues, the political issues, the scandals is here and there. I mean, and then people are too busy with that. People forget about like we need to wake up and we need to sprint. Singapore is sprinting, China is sprinting, and Malaysia is still at the starting line. That's
Even Indonesia is printing.
Indonesia is sprinting. Their currency is getting better and better, almost reaching to us. But it's hard to say because this involves a lot of layers. If you want to
Correct.
solve this, there's a lot of layers that we need to talk about it. So but another question is, the way I put it, Malaysians keep questioning like we need a good leader, we need a good person to lead us. But why can't we lead ourselves and work together on our own? Do we need a, it's like this lah, simply in a team, if your leader is defeated, you should help and motivate, not to keep changing the leader that we have. That wouldn't happen. Your society should help the leader to improve themselves if the leader is down. That's how we should look into it. We are not looking into a situation where, the leader is down, let's change and try another leader. The leader is down, let's change. It won't stop because nobody is perfect. Understand that. Nobody is perfect. But we already have a leader. Why don't we work with what we have? Simple as that. Okay. So I'm not trying to make this a political discussion, but the question itself on the comments provided might need to a deeper discussion on that, and also there's a lot of layers to it. So I don't think we have enough time if you want to talk about that.
Yes.
But I
Correct.
do understand where he's coming from, and I truly appreciate it. Yeah, we need another discussion with it. Yeah, right.
Gitu.
That's long discussion.
Yes, correct.
Yes,
Super
I
long.
mean
One
we
question, but it can go up to 12
true,
hours.
true.
because we cannot deny that politics do affect our everyday life. Even the word politics means many strategies, and it affects
Betul.
everything and everyone
We
as
need to
as
stop
it
seeing
grows.
ourselves as we are depending on leaders. Leaders, I mean, having a good leader is actually, we're supposed to look at it as having a good leader is actually a bonus. But it doesn't make our country anywhere kalau we don't work together. So the
True.
more,
It's not
the
us.
yes, the energy that is that we work together. That's the important thing. So how are we going to initiate this? Only through awareness. That is why I would say as an educator, the best that we can do at the moment is initiate this kind of sense of responsibility in our students,
Correct.
knowing that do your best, be your best to bring the nation further. If everyone do their best, cumulatively, we will be the best. As simple as that, right?
Correct.
So apart from knowing your environment, so here that is what we try to implement, at least here at MMU that I know. So that's what we're trying to implement. Tipu kan buat advertisement. Okay. Yeah, and then so we all need to work together on that. Everyone need to realize their responsibility. Everyone need to wake up and realize like let's just work on it. Okay, we need to stop focusing too much on all of these scandalous issues because it wouldn't bring us anywhere. Keep changing, keep questioning will not bring us anywhere. We will still be there. We will still be at the starting line. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. One more final comment
Mm,
from Mr. Eddie.
mm,
Agreed with you that our local political scene is a tractor for us as a nation to reach greater heights, or like you said, sprinting. Instead, authorities, the government should be the enabler. And he appreciates the great discussion. It's a good start, and let us rakyat do what we can do for the nation. Correct. All right. I have one final question, perhaps.
Mm.
As we know, our audience are not only from people from the industry. We have a lot of layer of audiences today. In fact, I have my students as well. Perhaps
Yeah, I
this
have my
question.
students too. I forced them to come here, like how COVID forced us to get this new way of life. Yeah, that's how I forced them to come.
Okay, so perhaps this question might be relevant to
Mm,
them. Apart from we talk about bridging the gap between the industry and the academia.
mm,
We also would like to look into how as Mr. Syed said earlier, digitalization or digitization is not only for the banking industry, and it covers across all industries in Malaysia and also globally. So the question would be, how do we get the younger generation, uh, for, I've been teaching for only 14 years, but during the 14 years, whenever I encounter experiences with these youth,
mm,
most of them are not really that interested in politics. Not many, okay, but there are one or two, but they are more interested in improving themselves, after graduation. What can they do? Perhaps Mr. Said Faizal would want to leave behind a few key points to these students
mm.
on how to not only to survive. I mean, at the industry level, at the university level, we train them. We let them go right after the graduation, and we train them here what to expect, and so on. So upon releasing them into that big ocean, um what would you like to say to these students, to these students on the preparation of life after university?
Um, I was a student myself, so I know what went through each of the students' mind. But I think it is okay if you don't know what you want when you finish off your studies. It's okay, because most of the time humans are built like that. You are not so sure what you want, but there will be a time that you will need to decide what you want to be. That's two different things, right? What you want may change, but what you need to be or you want to be is something that aspires you. Now, I think what is more important, I mean, regardless of whichever field that you are graduating, I've always have this. In fact, Adlene, my team consists of quite a number of fresh graduates, right? So for me, I love to learn from them. I love to listen to them, learn and see what's best, because you cannot learn everything. You cannot be, even though you are at one point of your career, you think you know all,
You
that's
can
wrong.
never be perfect.
You can
Yeah.
never ever know everything. Now, my advice to some of the students is that regardless whether you want to be a banker, you want to be a this, you want to be that, I think the most important part, and I give you a tip, it's not about how intelligent you are. It's not about how good you are in your academics. It's not about how good you can talk in public. It's actually about your attitude.
Yes.
Your attitude plays a very important part. If you are the brightest bulb in the room, but you have a very bad attitude, right? That bad attitude, people will not look at your brightness. People will look at your bad attitude. And there's a lot of graduates. I mean, I was, like I said, I was a student as well. When you graduate, you think you know everything. That's wrong, right? Because let me put that the expectation and reality is always not together. If
True.
it's together, I think something's not right. you know, like scam just now. If it's too good to be true, it is a scam.
Yes. True.
But I think yes, attitude. I've gone through thousands of interviews. I've gone through this, but I always assess and give a priority in terms of the positive attitude. Second is in terms of how whether you are the subject matter expert or not, and number three is your resiliency.
Betul.
Right? Your resiliency is very important. When you go to any industry, you need that resiliency for you to go on and on and on and on, right? But that coupled together with a very good attitude, you cannot just go on and do nothing. You need to go on. Again, I said, unlearn, learn, and relearn. That makes you a better person, inshallah. Right? But what is more important, and I see quite a number of graduates, I'm not saying I'm not generalizing everyone. When you graduate, you think that you are on top of the world. Right? Everyone feels like whether you want to pursue more in terms of master's degree or you want to go into the working arena, always remember that you got to put your head down. No matter how high you are, you got to put your head down and make sure your attitude is in check. Right? No employees will actually employ you because you are super smart. But right, this fella is cannot work with other people. No employer will actually take you. But any employer will actually say that this fellow has a very positive attitude, want to learn and whatnot. He might not be there, but we can polish him or her. That's important, right?
Thank you, Mr. Syed. I agree. I totally agree with you. Attitude is the most important thing when it comes to yeah, it comes to anything for that matter. Dr. Izzy, any last words before we wrap up?
Okay, right. So, okay, this one talking about the students. I am in the same page with Mr. Syed, right? When we're talking about students now, because that is why I always tell my students, never think that you are the best. Even though you graduated from your degree with 4 flat, doesn't mean that you know everything about that industry. No, you don't. Okay, so whatever that I give. I don't like to give fantasy to my students. I'll give them the reality because this is tertiary education. So at a tertiary education, they should prepare themselves. So get ready for it. So I'll just tell them the industry is not as fancy as you think it is, or the industry is not as easy as you think it is. Whatever that you learn in tertiary education in university is just the basic. But what will make you the great person in the industry is how you use it, how you manipulate that knowledge that you have, making it, your own life strategy, your own life goals that you want to fulfill to contribute back to the society. So it's linked now. It's very integrated. You should know first, once you graduated, you should know by then at least what you want to venture out into. And then second question that student always don't answer back is that think about how you can contribute back to the society, to that field or to the industry. It's no use. You are working for money. Stop working for money. When you want to work, search for an industry that you think you can contribute the most. So then only you would create interest based on that. Because if let's say you have that motivation to contribute, you can create interest based on that motivation. But if let's say you're working for money, that's when you will not feel satisfied with your job. You will not feel happy going to job. You will not feel fulfilled. You wouldn't fulfill your life goal. So that's the problem. Okay, so I'm preparing my students as in that, and that is why once in a while I like to bring industry players to come into my class and give them the critiques. Um, I mean, I'm not being bad lah, but then I would say to the industry players, just be honest. I wouldn't say like Taji my students. No, okay, I'm still a nice lecturer. Yeah, I say like, just tell them the truth. I mean, if you're in the industry, if this idea is not working, just tell them like this idea is not working. Just be truthful so that they know what to improve. If the industry people are not being truthful, then they will still think that they are on the cloud nine. That is a problem. They are on the cloud nine. Padahal they are not even like on the first layer of the cloud. Kan? So they need to realize where they are, that this life is not about you fulfilling or finishing your studies. This life is all about you improving yourself using the knowledge that you have. And we, as an educator, our responsibility is to provide experience, to provide education as much as possible, and in the current situation, we are trying to be most relevant as relevant as possible. Kan? Sebab tu just to share a quick one with you guys, and also to the attendees. Currently, I'm developing a master in strategic communication here in MMNU, and I try to include all of the latest syllabus. I'm working with Dr. M, right? As the chair, and I'm the co-chair, looking at the latest syllabus. What is the most relevant syllabus that we should include, so that the students will have the advantage of having that digitization inside of them when they go into the industry. Okay, so when we are ready, we will communicate more and come here be a student at MMU. Wah, siap, siap promote. Okay, that's all that I can say, and yeah, that's all.
All right.
Mm,
All right, thank you, Mr. Syed and Dr. Izzy, for the very inspiring, advices for the students. So before we wrap up the show today, there are a few key points that we have learned. Very very valuable lessons today we have learned on current trends, and prediction of trends in the future, especially the impact that it has on the nation, brought up by Mr. Eddie, and security. I think that is one of
make
the key
issues.
highlights. Yeah, the
Yeah.
many issues concerned by perhaps those attending
So
this show
don't
today.
give yes.
Don't.
Don't give your house keys to
Ah,
say
yes, don't give your house keys. Don't leave. Don't just happily pass on your alarm
Yes,
passcode.
your house is your
Very.
house. Yeah.
I think I will remember the analogy until forever. Okay. But again, looking at the topic today, sustainability through technology integration. No matter how advanced our technology, again, I would like to also highlight, based on Mr. Syed and Dr. Izzy's sharing just now, humanity is
Yeah.
important. Those kind of values are important.
Values,
Yes,
humanity is the core.
humanity, yes, core, because people nowadays are overwhelmed with a lot of information, hard sell and whatnot. They know what they want,
Yeah.
but the
Cell is not
humanity,
working anymore.
yes, is
Mm.
not working anymore. Even getting, um yeah, I mean, they know the
It
benefits
says
of using.
talk to your engage to and talk to your consumers, not sell to your
Yes,
consumers.
correct.
It's two different things.
So I think, among all points shared today, I think humanity, it goes back to
True.
humanity in any type of businesses or industry. So I think and I hope that our viewers today will be able to pick these points out. They can always revisit this video or this
Video. Yes.
show on MMU's official Facebook
Facebook.
and also official YouTube channel, and you can always revisit, and if you like to keep in touch with Dr. Izzy, he's here in Faculty of Applied Communication.
Yes.
Mr. Syed Faizal is in Affin. But definitely, if students ni kadang-kadang, after ni tanya, Miss, can we do our internship at Affin?
Terus resume hantar.
Pergilah tanya
Terus hantar
sendiri.
20 resume.
Pergi tanya sendiri. Don't don't expect us to spoon feed you.
Betul.
Okay, go up to Affin's website and then
Mm-mm.
query people in charge. All right.
Build networking cakap dengan diorang kan.
Yes, build
Hmm.
networking.
Build
Perhaps you,
networking. I
perhaps
mean,
I
communication memang all about networking. You build your own network.
correct.
I'm not going to build for you. Kan?
True.
Macam tu.
Perhaps after this, ICC also can keep in touch with Mr. Syed,
Of
with
course.
our future programs,
Okay.
because we, multimedia university, we have a lot of perhaps relevant programs related
Mm-mm.
to the industry as well.
And we
Okay.
have a discussion as well.
Yes,
Mungkin next
correct.
time kan.
Yes.
Second time kita talk about all that political all
If we are allowed to do so, yeah, Dr.
yeah,
Izzy.
betul?
Okay. So it was a very good discussion today. Thank you so much to Mr. Syed Faizal for taking the time off. I know you have a very very busy schedule. Thank you for coming, joining us today for this very valuable sharing session, and Dr. Izzy as well.
Thank you, Miss
Cannot,
Adlene, for inviting us.
we cannot take for granted that you are, an MMU lecturer, but still, your contribution to the sharing session is highly appreciated.
Thank
So
you, and
thank
thank
you,
you also MMU.
thank you
I
so
think
much.
I hope we can have more sessions like this. Engagement
Mm.
session is important.
Inshallah.
Maybe one fine day we can have a physical ones, which is a bit more interactive.
Mm.
If you right.
Correct, correct.
Thank you again.
Okay, thank you. So that's all we have for everyone today. Thank you so much. Have a good, um,
Have a
rest
good
of.
day.
Have
Have
a
a
good day.
progressive day. Let's work together into a better Malaysia. Right. Thank you so
Yeah.
much,
Inshallah.
everyone. Take care.
Adlene signing
Yes.
off.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum. Bye
Assalamualaikum.
bye.
Wonder how fast intelligent machines run on 5G? At MMU, you'll find the answer. Wonder how creative content and online businesses are mastered? At MMU, you'll find the answer. Wonder how cybersecurity and law function? At MMU, you'll find the answer. Find out all these and many more at Multimedia University, because MMU is you, leading the digital future. Visit mmu.edu.my.